They're one of them. It's what.
In the future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. You have tuned into none other than Dr. Judy WTF. I'm your host, Walt Lusk, and sliding in her chair, as usual, is none other than Dr. Judy herself. We had an amazing show last week. For those of you that missed it, I really encourage you to check it out. The topic was on passive-aggressive. So if you know anybody who is passive-aggressive, we talked about what it is and some potential ways to get around it. But today, with the holiday season starting, we are going to do a show, and maybe two at the rate we're going, on loneliness. So if you are alone or feel alone, get on the phone and call us.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I just made that up. 323-843-2826. We're going to shrink that tune as we normally do later in the show. It's in a classic song about loneliness. And the show is based upon a mind map that Dr. Judy developed about a dozen years ago and is in 9 panels and is an amazing part of doing therapy either on the phone, on Skype, or in person. She's got 2 offices now. It's doubled in size in Sherman Oaks and in beautiful downtown Beverly Hills in the 90120 zip code even.
Right near Tivana and Starbucks.
Yes,
How about
indeed.
that?
So you can grab your coffee and then get on the couch with Dr. Judy in person, or, of course, here on the phone. Dealing about loneliness, just a couple of things real quick. And there's a difference, of course, being lonely and being alone, right? Mm-hmm. What makes us happy is reading this. I'll read this one first. What makes us happiest in life? Surveys show that friends and family are the real prize. Even though our need to connect is innate, some of us always go home alone. You could have people around you throughout the day, or even being in a lifelong marriage, and still experience a deep, pervasive loneliness. Unsurprisingly, isolation can have a serious detrimental effect on one's mental and physical health. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about physical health as well.
So being that this is a show on healing human disconnect, I think loneliness is a very appropriate topic.
And I'm surprised we haven't done it sooner.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's the holidays. And seriously, Walt, I think we need 2 episodes because there are a lot of people out there. We have certainly covered suicide, which is very unfortunately prevalent during holiday season, and I think loneliness kind of dovetails with that. And so just a little bit about the mind map, because the mind map is designed to heal human disconnect, and it is called Be the Cause, because ironically we are not the cause of part 1 of our lives, but we are the cause of part 2. And by that I mean that we are not the cause of what happens to us as infants, because, Walt, your favorite line, insert right here.
Childhood is not a hostage situation.
Really? It's not?
No, it's not.
It's not?
It is, actually. Just make you pay attention. Childhood is a hostage situation. What control do we have over our parents, right?
Right.
If they want to kidnap us and take us somewhere in the car, what do we got to do? We got to go.
Right. So now that we're adults here, or at least we look like adults here.
I may be growing older, but I refuse to grow up, Doctor.
I know, and I do love that about you, Walt. I'm talking about the kind of adult that now looks at life and says, I have choices. I can heal the wounds of the past, or I can just continue to pass them along to the next generation. And one of my favorite psychologists, actually, I believe he was a psychiatrist, Dr. Murray Bowen, back in the day, talked about the multi-generational transmission process. And so what we're doing with the mind map is we're breaking patterns, we're breaking multi-generations of patterns. And so foundationally, you want to put the mind map up there so people can see it.
And those of you who aren't able to see the mind map, let's see, which button is it? Oh, it's moved around.
And oh, Walt, just for everyone to know, I have a new website. It's almost done. I'm going to direct you there anyway because it's chock full of information, and it is called psychologicalhealingcenter.com.
And you can still go to drjudywtf.com and find a mind map there as well.
Yes. So the point of the mind map is to really take you from the wounds of childhood through dismantling the encoding that becomes our negative self-esteem, and then paradigm shift you into solution. I work with people on a one-on-one basis. I work with many couples, and I work with people on phone or Skype to take them through this process, and it really, really shortens therapy time.
It really, really does. And if you don't believe her, all you got to do is punch up Yelp with Dr. Judy Rosenberg in Sherman Oaks and read and see for yourself.
Thank you for that, Walt.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So where does loneliness fit in? Let's start with cause. As many of you know who have been listening, the cause of our first emotional wound is always our parents, because they are responsible for our emotional well-being. And in order to have a healthy human psyche, we need to be breastfed, ideally, touched, gazed at. We need to be attuned to. We have to have parents that are soothing, know how to calm us down. We need consistency, and we need a primary caregiver. We ideally cannot be shuffled from one caregiver nanny to the other. It just doesn't do well for our psyche.
Doesn't cut it.
No. So where does loneliness begin? I think it begins in infancy. When we have parents that are consistent and are around, what we do is we soak in the feeling of secure attachment. And so when we're full, when we have a sense of security, when we have a trust in the world, then we have a sense that we are part of, and we are not lacking. When we don't have that stable foundation, then I think that we are more prone to loneliness. And again, you made a great distinction. We can be alone and not feel lonely, or on the other hand, we can feel that we're with somebody and feel very lonely. Remember, this is about disconnect.
It's about disconnect. And
right.
63% of folks that are married feel lonely. And I don't know how they're going to come up with that number, but I have a feeling it's probably higher.
Mm-hmm. And please do call in.
And they say, and we're going to get into that, and maybe not this week, but our next episode. If you as a spouse are feeling lonely or alone, chances are so's your partner.
Right, and there is therefore a disconnect. And what do I mean by disconnect? There's disconnect all over the place. You pick up your cell phone.
Well, I've got an article on that. You want to dive into that one?
Yeah,
real
go
quick?
for it, Walt.
Go on real quick. Let me find it.
Okay.
It talks about the fact of an experiment. Oh, here it is. Smartphones are an amazing form of technology. But then, of course, the devices can act as and even act as phones. Yet, paradoxically, these wonders of connectivity can create a sense of loneliness in us. They separate us from those who are immediately around us in our surroundings. Mm-hmm. People they're so engrossed in their smartphones, they seem all-consuming in the world unto itself. Truly can be amazing trying to observe. But have you thought how your smartphone can make you more alone? And that's the question. Have you ever thought how your smartphone will make you more alone? A few years ago, a friend of mine asked, if you drove away from your house and you were 10 to 15 minutes away from your house and you forgot your smartphone, how many of you would turn around and go back?
Because for some, that's the only form of human connection for the day. And
they suggest here, try an experiment. You want to hear the experiment?
Yeah.
When you're in a public place by yourself, and it really doesn't matter where, perhaps waiting room, restaurant, choose not to pick up your smartphone or even your iPad or something. Don't immerse yourself in reading either. Simply do what you are there to do. For instance, wait and eat. Pay attention to your surroundings. Give some thought to who these people are. Allow yourself to be curious about them, noting that they are a person with a whole life beyond what you can see. If someone makes eye contact, smile and perhaps even say hello. The whole idea is to open to the world immediately around you.
And that is a huge challenge today because we're so distracted. And really, Walt, we are still babies. In the essence of us, we still need the same things we needed when we were born. Eye contact, skin contact, attunement. We need unconditional love in the form of what I just said.
You know, some guys still need to be breastfed.
Yes, some do, Walt. Yes, they do. So we haven't changed, and yet we moved further and further away from human connection, and so therefore we're so lonely. And so I was reading today a very interesting article, and we want to pick up on it later, but there's a lot of research around the topic of loneliness, and there are different forms of loneliness. There's personal loneliness, there's social loneliness, meaning when you're not connected to a group, and one of the foundationals of our feeling like we're normal is to be part of a group. And I remember my studies from cross-cultural psychology. In some cultures, the way that they oust somebody from the group is by cutting them off totally socially. And what happens to those people is that they actually die. I believe in the Eskimo culture.
You're talking about physically actually die?
They physically actually die. There's no connection. So we are not islands unto ourselves.
Absolutely not. We're not.
We are wired to connect, as Stan Tatkin's title of his great book suggests.
To love.
We are wired
for love.
We are wired for love. We are wired to connect, and when we don't connect, it actually hurts. And the mind-body is so intricately connected that even a slight gaze away from your significant other or a friend or just a person that is in front of you, just gazing away and checking your cell phone or being distracted will cause a physical pain. I know, I have felt this. I could share with you that when I'm engaged in a conversation and I feel connected to that person and that person finds that cell phone more important, I start tensing up and I start losing concentration. Is there anybody else out there that feels the same way? I want to hear from you.
Yeah, get on your smartphone and dial us. And we're 323-843-2826. We want to be smart too, so call us on your smartphone.
Right. Use
323-843-2826. Get on the couch with us.
Use your disconnect to connect in this case. Yes. I find that to be so. What you were mentioning, Walt, is that it could even be more painful to be in a relationship and feel alone in a relationship. And the reason for that is because when you have a person in front of you, then there is the suggestion, right? Or the possibility and the yearning.
Or the
yearning.
The assumption.
The assumption, the yearning that there could be some kind of an interconnected possibility there. But then when they refuse to engage or they find other activities more important than connecting, then it becomes very, very painful. And a lot of what we talk about in our episodes are core beliefs. And so for people who have core beliefs that they're not important, that they are not number one, that they are not of value, then when they're in the presence of others that reinforce in essence in their mind that they're not of importance or of value, then it becomes a very, very painfully lonely experience.
That's true. And one of the things here is how loneliness can impact our relationships. Loneliness distorts how we see other people, and it makes us devalue our relationships. Judy's always talking about the lens that we have and we see the world through is cracked. Well, guess what? If you're really lonely, you're going to see things through a cracked lens, and it will devalue the relationship. We perceive others less caring, less interested, and less committed than they actually are.
Interesting.
And we judge our relationships to be weaker and less satisfying than they may be, and in fact, to protect ourselves from even further emotional pain.
Right, and sometimes what happens to us is we erect these defense mechanisms.
We put up these walls.
Right, and if you go to panel number 5 in the middle, which is called cause-isms, defense mechanisms, then you can see a diagram of what we as human beings do when we're when we're injured. When there's an injury to the self, then what we might do is put up a non-permeable membrane, and we will not be able to receive. And if we've been hurt over and over again by rejection, physical abuse, emotional neglect, and so on, we will put this wall up. And so this wall, even though it protects, within the walls is a sense of loneliness. And what's even worse is that these walls become so thick that no one can penetrate. And so therefore, even though one might crave company in there, the wall's really thick, and so the person's left with, well, I don't know what to do here. Do I defend myself against people and try to establish some form of safety, or do I break these walls down and risk becoming betrayed, risk becoming abandoned, risk some kind of an injury to the self? So this loneliness is just a kind of an internal process that goes on with people.
And we do have a call.
Oh my gosh, I love when people call in. Yes.
Hi, you're on the air with Dr. Judy and Walt. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Walt and Dr. Judy. Thank you for letting me ask a question. My name is Bob. And
hello.
Hope you guys are doing great tonight. I just found out about this show from my friend.
Awesome.
At any rate,
Awesome.
my issue is I didn't have any issues really truly with my parents. I had more issues with my peers growing up, and I was bullied. And
you were bullied.
Yeah,
I hear you there. So was I.
Heavily.
Yeah.
Heavily bullied. From what age?
From the age of probably 14 till 18. It was bad enough that I didn't want to go to school, and I ended up having to graduate later.
Yeah, junior high and high school. Junior high and high school.
I could not.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It affected my adult life. I'm 56 now.
Okay.
And it's still affecting me to some extent. I'm lonely.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really had wonderful relationships with women.
Mm-hmm.
I have a child who's awesome. My ex is not very nice,
Mm-hmm.
and I just haven't attracted the right people. And I do positive things, but yet I'm in a very positive wellness industry business. But even that I don't do as well as I think I could if none of this had happened. And I do a lot of personal development. And right now, I'm just not very motivated. Sometimes I'll sit alone in my place.
Yeah.
And I work when I want to.
Yes.
It just has taken a lot out of me. And I also look for women online, and I end up being taken and taken advantage of. And also, getting involved with women from Ghana who if you've ever heard of Ghana, all they want is they're scammers that just want your money.
Yeah, that's your money. Ghana and Nigeria. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did you say Ghana?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I have a very important question about that stage of your life. 14 to 18, you said? Yes?
By the way, one last thing to add on to that is because of that, right after I left high school and didn't graduate with my class, I ended up joining the Army to escape, not to join the Army.
Okay, so
and that one didn't work out either.
That did not work well. So so the important.
No, I got teased there, and I had fear flying on a plane, and I ended up lasting for about 3 months, and I left.
Okay, so what I'd like to ask you, the important question I want to ask you is, when you were being bullied, how did your parents respond to that? In other words, they
didn't really. They cared about me very much, but I don't think they really were that aware. My parents weren't really aware overall what was going on.
Okay.
My mom is just now aware of more of what's going on than she was back then. My dad is passed, and my mom knows. I don't think my dad was ever truly aware.
Okay, so
they just knew I had issues. That's all.
So here's something that I talk about often is that there are acts of omission and there are acts of commission, okay? And so what happens to us is when we're hurt as teenagers, children, when we're in the hands of our parents, what happens is that we we somehow we want them to be our heroes. We want them to protect us. And if they're unaware, if they're not really on the pulse of what's happening in your life, if they're not tuned in, if they're not really aware of small, slight changes in your behavior, maybe you're getting depressed, or maybe you're getting withdrawn, or maybe your schoolwork is going south.
That.
Pardon me?
They saw all that. They saw the fact that my schoolwork was suffering.
Okay.
They saw the fact that and my sister, by the way, was the exact opposite. She never got picked on or bullied. Her life is perfect. She hasn't, not perfect. Nobody's life is perfect, but it's amazing.
Right.
Very
Right.
positive person.
Mm-hmm.
And she never went through any of what I went through in school.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, my parents just really didn't know, except for the fact that they knew my schoolwork was suffering.
Okay.
And they knew I wasn't doing well, and they knew I had much more potential. I'm a much more intelligent person than getting D's and F's in high school.
So look, you're a parent, right? And if you saw your child's grade slipping, correct? Wouldn't you want to investigate further?
Well, I can't even do that because I'm not together with my. That's another part of my.
Okay, I got that. I got that. But instinctively, if you were around your child,
at this point, she doesn't let me see him that much.
Okay.
Okay. She's a mean person.
My point is this. Okay. Wow. Okay. My point is this. There are acts of omission and there are acts of commission. And when our parents are not there to really observe our behavior, not only observe like a standby person, but somebody that jumps in and gets actively involved, then at that point, we inherently feel that we're unprotected and unsafe in the world. So there are different stages of development, and although trust and mistrust is established way back in the formative years, and I don't know what your history is, it seems like that file came up again where they had an opportunity to show you that they were going to protect you in this world and have your back, and for whatever reason they didn't participate. They didn't actively participate and protect you. And so when we go into the world with blueprints that I'm not going to be protected or I'm not safe in the world, what happens is that we somehow function that way. And sometimes, like we are animals on some level, and sometimes when people smell the fear on us, when they smell something off in us, human race is not exactly kind all the time, so they may jump in there and attack. Okay, so for whatever reason, you have now a blueprint within yourself that spells the world is not safe. So I'm imagining that, and please do look at the mind map because it's just my shorthand version, that you're in panel 5 now. You're in isolationism. And so, great. On one level, it protects you, right?
All the time.
What's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes, not all the time.
Okay, and you told me that
I'm very helpful. I see my son when she allows me to, depending upon what he's doing.
Okay.
I help my mom at whatever she needs. My dad has passed.
Okay.
I love my mom very much.
Okay, so I want you to do
my child.
Okay, I get it. You're a good soul. You're a good man. You want to participate. You want to be there for people. You're in the helping.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I'm even in the wellness industry, so
yes.
I'm all about helping people.
Okay, so here I'm going to help you
right
now.
Help yourself
okay, so I want you to do an experiment. Okay. What I want you to do. Okay, I want you this week. I want you to get offline. Just get offline. Just forget dating online. I want you to go out there, and if you see somebody, it doesn't have to be a perfect somebody. I want you to engage with that person and smile and talk and see where that conversation goes. It happens that right now I'm in yoga certification training, which is amazing, and it's driving me wild. And they say the same thing that I say in my practice, which is change happens, transformation happens at the edge. So we've got to get out of our comfort zone. We've got to push the envelope a little bit. So what I'm asking you to do is put aside your old way of being and start looking into how you can become more of I call it a semi-permeable membrane, where you can let in the good and keep out the bad. And so basically what you're saying to me is you've been traumatized, and in order to overcome trauma, you have a bit of PTSD left over. So
post-traumatic stress disorder.
Thank you, Walt. Thanks for speaking English for
me. One comment, though, just
yes.
to answer. I did, up until the advent of so many things on the internet in the last 2 years or 3 years with all these particular things. But before that, I always met people in person, always met women in person, and I just haven't really had, over the period of my life, as I say, I'm 56 now, I feel a lot younger, and I still have time.
Yes.
But going out there, I didn't have much confidence, because the people that I did get and I was attracting, I think I was attracting who I was. In other words, somebody at that level, not at a higher level, and that's why I attracted my ex, although I'm a much nicer person than her, honestly.
Okay.
But I met a lot of women, even as recent as this year, and it just didn't work out.
All right. So I don't know. Look, I don't know if you're in the LA area, but if this is something that you want to, if this is something that you truly want to work on and truly want to break through on, just for you to know, I have offices in LA and Beverly Hills, Sherman Oaks and Beverly Hills, and I have a staff that provides sliding scale fee treatment for people. And so obviously, therapy is a choice. It's not for everyone. Some people want to participate. Some people, want to pass on it. But I'm offering you this because sometimes there's more than meets the eye. Obviously, I can't really take a deep look at what's going on. And there are 5 questions that I want you to answer for yourself. Were you breastfed? Were your parents emotionally available? Did you have one primary caregiver, or were you shuffled around? Was there any drug, alcoholism, sexual or physical abuse in your family? And if there was none of those things. Okay, so you have a really clean background. I think that the issue here is that you felt unprotected, and in your case, it was more of an act of omission than commission. And so I want you to push the envelope a little bit and live on the edge. Don't worry about finding anybody. I just want you to experiment with your boundaries, because the bullies pushed you into that hole. And so now you've got to come back out of it and understand and experience that there are all kinds of people out there. Some of them are a-holes you want to keep away. Some of them are wonderful human beings and you want to let them in. So I want you to experiment with your boundaries. Are you willing to do that?
Yes, I am. And I also do want to add one little thing. I'm taking something through a company that I'm in, a network marketing company.
Okay.
And there's something that my upline offered me called CREA. This has nothing to do with network marketing. Have you ever heard of CREA?
No, I have not.
I haven't either.
CREA it's actually called The Art of Living, and I'm taking that on December 4th.
Okay, is that Kriya Yoga or no?
Is it like a class?
It's a combination of yoga.
Okay, I know what it is.
I haven't gone.
Okay, I love.
You know what it is.
Yeah, I do, because I oftentimes go to the Self-Realization Fellowship, and I know all about Paramahansa Yogananda and Kriya Yoga. It is a beautiful, beautiful practice. Okay,
So just remember,
because I'm on an antidepressant, and it's very hard to get off of it.
Okay, so look, there's so much. There's so much more I want to say. However, I think meditation is better than medication. Obviously, if you need the medication to hold you for a while, I understand. I think meditation and going inward is super important. But remember, we are wired to connect. So don't substitute going inward with social interaction. We need both. We absolutely.
We do need both. And think of yourself as like a rubber band.
Yes.
A rubber band is only good when it's stretched.
Right.
If it just sits there, it isn't good.
Push the envelope, and I'd love to connect with you further and explore this further. Go to my website or contact me, and we could talk some more. And right now, what I want you to do is experiment with your boundaries so that you can have direct experiences of people, all kinds of people, and then we can talk about how to deal with them. And go to my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com.
Or drjudywtf.com, and they're both linked.
Right, and not yet. They're not linked. That's why they're separate.
Psychological Healing Center, that's right.
Correct. And so you will see on there the peaceful healing dialogue, and that is the way to dialogue with people so you don't push them away, you do not isolate, and you extend a bridge. Okay, so I hope to hear from you, and get out there and do that social experiment.
And thanks a lot.
I will.
Really appreciate
Thank
you
you
calling.
so very much, both of you, and I will
Thank
contact
you.
you. It was Psychological
Healing Center.
Psychological what?
Psychological Healing
Psychological Healing
Center. Psychologicalhealingcenter.com. And I did not get your name. I tried to hear it. What is your name?
My name is Bob.
Bob. Okay, thank you very much, Bob. I'll look forward to talking to you again.
Take care.
You as well. Thank you both, and you guys both have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
My pleasure. Same to
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
You're tuned in to Dr. Judy WTF, and we were just blessed with a telephone call. So that was awesome.
Thank you very much for
Yeah.
calling in, Bob. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. One thing that, and if you want to pull us later, you can pull us on ubnradio.com, of course. We are on Stitcher and iTunes. So if you want to hear this show or any of our past shows, that's where you can find them. And, of course, if you have a question, I was just talking to somebody earlier, and they don't want to be on the radio, but they have a burning question. Just write us at info at drjudywtf.com, and we'll definitely promise to put it on the air. The one thing that you might want to touch on, which I think is part of the thing, is overcoming loneliness. And there's three things here, and you touched on the last one actually in a little different way, but in a similar way. And I thought we could touch on that because loneliness can take deep root with us and instill a sense of worthlessness and hopelessness, but it can be soothed. And the three things are, and we'll elaborate, is awareness, acceptance, and compassion.
Self-compassion.
Yeah, compassion from yourself and others.
Yes.
So aware. Choose to bring your awareness to your experience. Pay attention to how your body feels. The whole hollowness in your chest, the constriction in your throat, the heaviness of your body. If you feel the sadness within you, allow yourself to cry without restraint. So in other words, you got to let that emotion out. It doesn't do anything.
And I just want to add to that the opposite of depression is expression. And so when you're crying, there's a flow. When you're depressed, there's no flow. It's stagnant territory. So if you're feeling something that hurts your feelings, it's hurting you, then honor that and have your feelings around that.
You have to, because what you're feeling is a form of pain, right? And pain is a clue. So you have to, address it, be aware of it, let it flow, because if it stays bottled up, that's absolutely horrid for your mental health as well as your physical health.
Yes.
The next is acceptance. So many people instinctively try to run from their loneliness. Sometimes they try and hide by numbing themselves, sleep, or maybe they'll, do alcohol or drugs or something, or even just watch a bunch of TV or maybe play video games. But the thing is, if you're keeping busy, you're superficially engaged in life. So and that aching emptiness breaks through the numbed bodies. So some people try to get rid of the pain by blaming themselves. I call it shoulding on yourself, SHOULD, right? I should have done that, I shouldn't have done that, and there's a lot of regrets. But, that doesn't do any good either, criticizing yourself. So instead, choose to stay with the feeling and acknowledge your loneliness, and choose to continue to be aware of it.
I just want to add a few things because there are a lot of people who feel the same way that you out there feel if you're feeling lonely. So why not just understand that we're all on some level lonely?
Yes,
and why not initiate contact? Because people will love you for it. They'll be blown away if you smile at them. They'll be blown away if you actually talk to them and ask them about themselves. Remember, people love to talk about themselves. So one way to engage people is to ask them about themselves. And I think a huge breakthrough for people who are needing more social contact is to join an organization, whether it be a church, temple, Kriya Yoga, some kind of a community where people are really celebrating the same thing or engaged in the same thing, or just go out there and volunteer.
Another source is, if you guys ever heard of it, it's called Meetup. MEETUP, meetup.com.
Wonderful.
And when you go on there, there are a plethora, I mean hundreds and thousands of little groups of any single activity you could possibly imagine, from knitting to guys going out and getting drunk. And
Let's meet up and get drunk.
Everything in between.
Right.
And so if you have an interest or a hobby, or you have had a curiosity of an interest or a hobby, or a topic or an issue, check out Meetup and just join. It's free. And check out a group or two. You'll be amazed how you will have a group of instant friends.
And one thing that maybe we can elaborate on next time is the importance of pets, because our pets are a bundle of unconditional love.
Yes,
and there's nothing more accepting, loving than having a dog or a cat, a special pet that you can physically touch and look in the eyes of and know that you can exchange this unconditional love with, because that's what fills our hearts.
Yes.
This is something that we also call the Hole in the Soul series. So the hole in the soul is that place where we're wounded from our primitive years of life, our first few years of life, and then we try to fill the hole with drugs, sex, and rock and roll. So there are healthy defense mechanisms that are going to take you deeper into the hole, like drugs, sex, and rock and roll, unless it's just a little dose here and there. I guess we all need some of that. And then there are other healthier defense mechanisms like Kriya Yoga or yoga or exercise or eating healthy food or hanging out with people who are wanting to evolve or anything along the lines of health and growth.
Just go outside.
Yeah,
go for a walk.
just go outside.
Put your shoes on and go for a walk.
Right. So don't try to pretend that that you can be an island unto yourself. This is not a challenge about how to be alone. This is really a challenge of how to be interconnected with people,
as well as yourself. And the third, so how to overcome loneliness. The first one is being aware of it. Second is to accept it. You have to accept yourself and accept where you are and accept your loneliness and your pain. And the third is compassion. Practice reminding yourself that others feel lonely too, as Dr. Judy has said. It's just part of the human existence and the human experience. So choose to see yourself with a perspective as you would see someone else. And tell yourself that it is sad that you feel so alone. But if you're supportive of others, and it could be family, it could be friends in your life, reach out to them. Take a deep breath, pick up that phone, however smart or not it is, and call or text them and ask for some support in whatever you need. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength.
And Walt, I bet that if every one of you listening tonight took out a piece of paper and a pen and pencil and made a list of 5 people that you know who are really feeling lonely, maybe your grandmother or grandfather or your parent or your uncle or your sister or a friend that you haven't called for a long time, I bet you if you reached out to those 5 people, they would be absolutely thrilled to hear from you. And I would bet you that you're taking away someone else's lonely pain is also going to fill a peace within you.
And remember that shared sorrow, shared joy is double joy. Shared sorrow is half sorrow, and shared joy is double joy. That's what it is. Yeah. Remember that we're recording this before Thanksgiving. So if you just call them up and say, hey, it's Thanksgiving, I'm thankful for you. Trust me, that's a really simple opening line, and you'll be amazed at the discussion you'll have and how you'll feel afterwards.
I love that.
Just, hey, I'm thankful for you.
Yeah.
You can even send them a text and see if they respond, and if they do, pick up the phone and call them. Because the point here is that you want to try and truly connect with others that will help you feel emotionally stronger and less alone.
Beautifully said, Walt.
Okay. And so that's what it's all about, really. And so use the season as an opportunity, not thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, it's holidays and I'm alone. Well, sometimes we got to be a little proactive as opposed to reactive. And the benefits and the rewards, I promise you, are huge.
And if you're alone for Thanksgiving, then see what's out there in the community. And there's a lot of volunteering going on. I know that for a fact, feeding the homeless and so on. And if you don't want to do that, then why don't you make a really cute little party at your house and invite some people that you also know don't have a place to go Thanksgiving. So be creative and know that really we as a human race are all we are all one. We're all suffering on different levels, challenged with feeling alone or lonely. And so that if we all understood that we do make a difference to another human being, and ultimately us reaching out to them impacts how we feel. And that's one way to really deal with loneliness, is to alleviate another person's loneliness.
It's like if you feel alone, reach out to others.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you aren't so alone.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. If we give, we get.
Yes.
But we have to give to get, not get to give. We have to give to get. Mm-hmm. That's what I believe.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's going to be plenty more material.
Oh, we have so much more in lieu of time.
Okay.
Do you have like a testimonial from one of your patients that you could
yeah, I have a really interesting. I had a really interesting experience with somebody this week where we were talking about some repressed material, and I'm so aware that the body and the mind are interconnected, and this woman was struggling to speak about some material that she wasn't quite comfortable speaking about. And she was repressing it and justifying it and sugarcoating it, and her body wouldn't let her repress it. She knew it had to come out. So as I'm looking at her, I'm seeing this rash literally appear along her left arm. It was just getting redder and redder and redder. And I said to her, wow, look at your left arm. Just look at your left arm. And she looked and she said, wow, I'm stunned. And we were talking about how the mind and body are so interconnected, so that even when we try to repress material, the body's always talking.
It's going to come out some way.
It's going to come out some way. And
Yeah.
I've seen this happen before where some of my patients who've experienced some pretty severe sexual or emotional or physical abuse have choked it back and repressed it. And once they start talking about it, a rash will literally appear along their throat and chest. And once they release the communication and release the emotions that have been repressed, that just all goes back into balance. It's really, really fascinating how we are wired.
And the one thing that we all are wired for, that we're all trying to find, is unconditional love.
Right.
And sometimes in order for us to receive unconditional love, again, I'm kind of on this track today, you have to give it.
Oh, and I just wanted to say I did another mother-daughter healing this morning.
Yeah?
It's fabulous. Just so fabulous. And the daughter felt tremendously guilty about expressing herself to her mother. And finally, when it was all integrated, the mother felt so joyous that her daughter was able to express her feelings to her. And so the relationship is beginning to heal. And it was very, very emotional for everyone, myself, the mother, and the daughter. And so we always have the opportunity, whether with our parents or without our parents, to heal human disconnect. And I just love it when mothers come in. I just think it's such an honor and a privilege for a mother and a child to process through past injuries. I really, really, really have a lot of admiration for that.
Well, a lot we say here is don't repress, but express, right?
Yes.
So we look to do that. And on a lighter note, I think it's time for our song. What do you think?
Okay. I love our Shrink That Tune time.
Yeah, this is fun.
One of my favorite times of the show. But my favorite is when people are calling in.
Yes,
so
we
again,
really,
thank you,
really
Bob.
Enjoy Thanks for calling in. So next time is Thanksgiving, and then the week after we'll probably continue with the show and on this topic, so you can call in then. But the song we're going to do is one that Judy suggested that I think fit really well. It's actually a classic, but nonetheless one we're going to dive into and dissect. It's Eleanor Rigby by none other than the Beatles.
So Eleanor Rigby is a song that I heard for the first time in my, I think it was like 7th grade class or something. And I was so touched by it because some person came in to school and played this on a guitar, and just the whole experience was really wow. It really was. And then the words to the song were so haunting. So I'm excited about Shrinking this tune.
Look at all the lonely people. Look at all the lonely people. Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in the church where the wedding had been, lives in a dream, waits at the window wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for?
This is such a deep song. I could really have a field day with it. So it starts with, yes, there are lots of lonely people. Eleanor Rigby is just the metaphor for one of them. And one of the things that really strikes me is that she's picking up the rice in a church where a wedding has been. So obviously somebody's celebrating and she's waiting on the sidelines. And so she's not participating in this at all. And it's very, very painful for her to live in this dream when she knows others are having fun, but she's not. And the whole reference to she keeps her face in a jar by the door is, I think, representative of her false self, that she's very depressed, she's very sad, but maybe when the moment is right, she'll be able to take out her false smile and her false self and try to connect on some level.
Excellent.
And maybe she'll get married too. But probably she's living in a dream.
It depends upon how often she keeps her face in the drawer, probably.
Yeah, that's true.
All the lonely people, where do they all come from? All the lonely people, where do they all belong? Father Mackenzie, writing the words of a sermon that no one will hear. No one comes near. Look at him working, darning his socks in the night when there's nobody there. What does he care?
Well, look at all these lonely people. Father Mackenzie's lonely too, isn't he? He's darning his socks, and he's writing a sermon that no one will hear. So he's got all this passion inevitably within him, and he wants to communicate, but the essence is that, well, maybe no one will come near, nobody cares. So ultimately, maybe he's kind of closing down and stopping to care too. What does he care?
Look at all the lonely people. And then we're back to Eleanor Rigby. Died in the church and was buried along with her name. Nobody came. Father Mackenzie, wiping the dirt from his hands as he walks from the grave. No one was saved.
Well, maybe they should have been friends and gotten together and had a cup of coffee, and then maybe they wouldn't have been as lonely.
At least.
Okay,
at least.
But look at all this loneliness. So Eleanor Rigby, at the end of the day, she's picking up rice in a church where a wedding has been, and she's lived this whole life, and it's completely empty. Nobody even comes to her funeral, and Father Mackenzie just sounds as lonely as she, and apparently he's the only one who shows up. So look at these two lonely people.
Well, that's what it says. All the lonely people. Look at all the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong?
Well, maybe they belong with each other, and then they won't be lonely. So maybe if we realize that peace within ourselves, the lonely part in ourselves, and reach out, as we were saying, what's the antidote to loneliness? Care about another human being. Reach out to another human being.
And we're going to continue our series of Hole in the Soul next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can find us on Stitcher.com, either on your smartphone or online, and iTunes, or on this incredible station we're on, which is UBN, Universal Broadcasting Network, radio.com. I'm Walt Lusk, your host, and we're with Dr. Judy Rosenberg. You can check out her at this point on two websites, our own Dr. Judy WTF, which of course is what the Freud.com, or is the Psychological Healing Center live?
Psychological Healing Center is pretty live right now.
It's just come online. So.
Yeah, there's just a lot of information on there. So browse around, look at the blogs, and check out the explanation for the mind map, and just check it out.
Through the show, you obviously get a discount either in Beverly Hills or Sherman Oaks, or on the phone online as well. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We are going to do our song, and